Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
Man, if there was ever a time I needed to get away in my body and brain, it's now. You ever feel that way? I have to unplug. I have to decompress. I just can't watch the politicians and pundits and pastors and bigots and stupid people in the world. They're just front and center. Every day I look at it and I'm like, stop it. I feel stressed. My body gets tight. My mind races. I have a hard time sleeping. I've been struggling with sleep. Despair has been a problem. I feel despair. How do you recalibrate? How do you do self-care when you have a hard time shutting it off? Natalie, for years, has been talking about yoga. Honey, we need to try yoga. Okay, yeah, sure. That's fine. For years, she has been saying this. We need to try yoga sometime. Okay, yeah, fine. Just let me know. 4 weeks ago, she comes in and she says, well, I signed us up. You signed us up for what? For yoga. There's a class downtown that was recommended. We're going Sunday morning, 9:30. It's hot yoga. Now, I've heard about hot yoga. Let me rephrase. I've heard horror stories. I don't know if a hot room has a benefit or not. I'm one of those guys, if I work out, I do like to sweat. And I sweat a lot. Like Rafa Nadal at the French Open, you know, where the perspiration's pouring off of him. That's me. That's just always been me. But I kind of prefer that when I'm working out. And so we go 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday. We show up. It's this very peaceful little box of a room. The temperature indoors, 94 degrees. Okay, all right. Grab one of their mats and a little block, and I had a towel, and we all sort of lay everything out in our personal space. And it starts with relaxation. Just clear your mind of all the stuff, the baggage. Just breathe it out. Take a second, right? Take care of you and your brain for just a second before we do anything else. Well, that was kind of nice. And then she begins to move us through a series of light stretches. Put your arms back over your head and then reach them to the side. Stretch your toes and fingers. Breathe. And that was actually really good. I felt myself like a balloon start to deflate, right? There was a lot of pressure. I start to deflate. Now, again, I still don't know what I'm in for because I am aware there's a ton of different types of yoga. Some are, as I understand it, kind of like secular Buddhism, mindfulness stuff, right? But there's not a lot of woo-woo in it. And then there's a ton of other stuff. I don't even know what they all are. Yin yoga, karma yoga, kundalini yoga, ashtanga yoga. I don't know what all these things are, but I assume that you are sitting there trying to straighten your body into the proper shape to be a conduit for the electricity of the cosmos where your ancestors have given their energy, which lives eternally. I don't know. And I was a little nervous. I was waiting to be like, eye rolling. Oh God, please don't talk about my chakras. my Reiki energy centers. Please don't start any of that. And I was relieved and delighted. There was none of that, okay? So the process, and this was to be expected, is a kind of ramping up. You start with some light stretching, then heavier stretching, then the poses begin. And all these poses have names, and I'm coming up with names of my own because I can't always remember the official names, but I can remember the names that pop into my head based on how I'm feeling in the moment, based on the level of burn in my thighs. And so before I know it, things are getting intense. Half an hour into it, I am huffing and puffing. The perspiration is coming off of me like a fountain. I am Niagara Falls in this 94-degree room. My limbs are wobbling. Stand up and do a tree. And then you stick your arms out left and right, and then you bend back and forth. I'm wobbling. I'm having to put both feet on the ground, reset, try again, feeling increasingly insecure. Can I even do yoga? Do I belong in this room? What doesn't help is in front of me and to my left are two obviously fit contortionists who must do yoga every day. All right, let's just bend over and let's touch the floor or touch our toes. I'm sorry. You want me to touch my toes? I haven't been able to touch my toes since I think I came out of the womb, right? I can't touch my toes. I am far from my toes or touch the floor. So I'm sitting there trying to stretch it out. Meanwhile, the contortionists aren't just touching the floor. Their palms are flat on the floor. They probably could have walked them backwards between their legs without a problem. Oh my God, do I belong here? This is the insecurity in me, right? Because there's no judgment in the room. Everybody go at your own pace, right? Listen to your body. Do what you need to do. Today is for you, and I so appreciate that. Nobody's walking around saying, oh, your form sucks, Seth. There was none of that. But I will say, and this is kind of sad, that when I looked a little bit further and I saw some other people who were just as wobbly, who were also kind of occasionally falling and stumbling and having to reset, a few just stopped for a second and grabbed a water and breathed it out, right? They had to shake it off. Okay, maybe I'm being petty, but I was like, yes, I'm not the only one in pain. I'm not the only one struggling with balance, because I'm clumsy. Even though I play tennis, I'm clumsy and I don't have great balance. I'm certainly not limber. I didn't realize how not limber I was until I came to this class. So that's a goal. 44 minutes into that hour-long class. And the reason that I know it was 44 minutes is because I discreetly waited until the instructor was looking in another direction, and I took a glance at my watch. Okay, 44 minutes. Can you make it? Come on, Seth. When's the cool down start? Don't give up now, pal. You've got this. I feel every muscle in my body. Keep going, keep going, keep going. 53 minutes. She says those wonderful words. Now I want you to lie back. Lie back. And just breathe it out. Cool down. Exhale everything that has been weighing you down, all of the things that you've been carrying with you, the things that you feel like master you. Remember that you have more power than you think to master them. Give yourself gratitude for taking time out of your busy life to be here, to focus on what you want, what you need. The health and wellness of your mind and your body. Give yourself some credit for accomplishing what you just accomplished. Reward yourself for the investment you just made in you. And I know this sounds corny, but it kind of moved me. I became totally aware of how few times I have purposefully said, I'm going to build a box, and the world doesn't get to come into this box. I'm going to hit the off switch for just a second, purposefully, on the things that keep me up at night, and the stresses and the insanity and the conflict and the drama and the corruption and the cruelty and the world on fire. They don't get to come in. You do not have permission. The door is locked to you. I am going to take a second for me. It was such good medicine. So beyond the fact that I was kind of proud of myself for finishing, imperfectly, wobbly, but I finished. I look like I've been swimming. I am so covered in sweat. But I'm lying there and I just felt a sense of goodness. And then this lovely messiah of a woman walked by every single one of us, and she gave us a cold, wet towel scented with lavender. Oh, I am here for the lavender towel. I am here for the lavender towel. Just draped it over my eyes and my forehead, lying face up on the ground. Oh, yeah, it was bliss. Thank you so much for my lavender towel. And at the very end, we all sort of casually move ourselves to a seated position. She says a few more generous words of encouragement, and then finishes with namaste. And everybody in the class, as if it was a reflex, apparently they all knew to do this, responded, namaste. And then there were big smiles and even a few hugs among friends, and everybody got up and went to their lockers. Natalie and I noodled our way out to the car and drove home like we're both just wasted, but smiling. Never done anything quite like that before, but I would do it again. By the way, I had to go look up namaste. I always knew it was kind of a greeting or a farewell, an expression of goodwill. But what does namaste mean? I went to dictionary.com. Namaste, an expression of respectful greeting performed by placing the palms together, bowing the head slightly, and saying namaste, used traditionally by Hindus in South Asia. Nama means bow, as means I, te means you. So namaste apparently means bow me you, or I bow to you. Okay. It's a generous gesture, one of goodwill. Namaste, my friends. Namaste. We need goodwill. And this is the part where I switch gears and vent just a little bit before we return to peacefulness and mindfulness later in the broadcast, and I will take your calls. I can't think of a time I've ever needed to be more centered, more mindful, to find that box, the respite, the escape, right? The safe room. I can't think of a time that I or you have needed it more, because the planet has turned into a circus of evil, murderous clowns. Unfortunately, I don't get to live in my happy, safe, blissful namaste room all the time. So every morning, especially as an activist, but I think you do this as well, every morning, I get up and I get my coffee and I log on to the world. I wonder what happened while I was sleeping. Oh, it's crazy. It's just crazy out there. Everything from Israel, Palestine, to right-wingers getting mad because Taylor Swift is having fun at a football game. Poor Taylor Swift was the victim of somebody who made AI-generated pornographic images of her, which went viral on the internet. We've been talking about the deep fakes, and once they perfect deep fake videos, I can't even imagine how chaotic the world is going to be. Oh, look, I saw them on video. I have evidence. I know they said it. But what if you don't? Pastor Robert Jeffress from First Baptist Dallas running ads on Fox News. Commercials loaded up with explosions and riots and tear gas and craziness and Israeli flags. And he's, of course, hawking a book. Are we living in the end times? The book's for sale. Here's my website. You know who else said we were living in the end times? Bob. Billions and billions of dead people. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, last September, he declared that the state of Texas was straight up being invaded. Hordes of invaders coming over the Mexico-Texas border. And so to defend the state, they put up these sort of buoys, these big barriers. You've seen them, the orange balls of razor is what they are. They've got cutting instruments all over them, and then razor wire all up and down the border. The Supreme Court just said, Governor Abbott, you have to remove those. The governor says, my state's rights to protect against invasion supersede anything in the Constitution. I'm just going to do it anyway. So any of the wire that had already been removed, he replaced, and I think he actually installed more. In the shadow of that, we've got a trucker convoy, bunch of people calling themselves patriots. They're driving down to the U.S. border with Mexico to, quote, take our border back. They have called themselves God's Army on a mission to stand up against the globalists and those who want to destroy this country. There are quotes in an article that was published by Vice. Some of the organizers and participants are saying shit like this. This is a biblical monumental moment that's been put together by God. We are besieged on all sides by dark forces of evil. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. It is time for the remnant to rise. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the American idiom when it comes to peacemaker, this is code. When they say peacemaker, they mean gun. It's like the Old West, you know, when the sheriff or the hero pulls out his pistol. Sometimes it's even engraved. This is a peacemaker. I'm going to keep the peace. I'm going to do it through violence. That's what they are talking about. And you know that these people are heavily armed and just waiting for a chance to be the hero in their own action movie. Rest well tonight. Sleep like a baby, because our southern border is being monitored by Al-Qaeda, the Gravy SEALs. Meal Team 6 is on the case. My home state, again, Superintendent of Public Instruction, Ryan Walters. I have to talk about him because what he does is national news, but he's in my backyard. He just appointed to Oklahoma's Library Review a woman named Chaya Raichik. You may know her as the woman who runs the Libs of TikTok account, which is a nightmare of misinformation, provocation. She posts all these edited clips going after public schools, public school teachers. She's going after She's an enemy of the public school teacher, freaking people out to the point where people are calling bomb threats into schools. Chaya Raichik has no education degree, no education credentials, and she's never even worked at the desk in a library. She has now been appointed to Oklahoma's Library Review Committee, which means she might be leading the book ban bandwagon in my home state. We are watching in real time the second by second cognitive meltdown of Donald Trump. Every day he is more unhinged, and that is saying something. He just lost the E. Jean Carroll defamation case to the tune of $83 million after being represented by an attorney who proudly admitted that it's better to be pretty than to be smart because she thinks you can fake smart. Good luck with that, by the way. Trump is neck deep in election interference investigations. He's facing a 45-page indictment for conspiracy, obstruction, fraud. There's the classified documents in your bathroom problem, which he both denies and then admits to because he's a president and has permission. New York prosecuting the guy on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Colorado and Maine have removed him from the presidential ballot based on the 14th Amendment, which disqualifies any candidate who has engaged in insurrection against their country. His campaign stops are more and more filled with empty seats. Melania won't even let him ride in the same SUV as her. Did you see the video? He's trying to get in the back seat. And she's like, get the hell out of here. You get back in the other car. Go away from me. You disgust me. And the look on his face is just priceless. On and on. So his whole world is melting down and he is going along with it. We are watching Tangerine Palpatine sweating the orange makeup from his face as he increasingly displays not just stupidity, which has always been there, but straight up losing it. He is totally jumping the couch. The man has lost his oars in the water. The wheel may be turning. The hamster is dead. He doesn't even know what planet he's on. He doesn't know who he ran against in 2016. Doesn't remember who he lost to in 2020. He keeps forgetting who he's running against this year. He keeps saying Obama, 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 Obama. Just a few days ago, he's blasting Nikki Haley because she did such a horrible job when she was Speaker of the House on January 6th of 2021. Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and UN ambassador running against you for the Republican presidential nomination, who has never been anywhere near the speaker's chair, confuses her with Nancy Pelosi, and then later says he did it on purpose. I mentioned E. Jean Carroll, right? The woman who won a sexual abuse case against him. The deposition record has this precious moment. Donald Trump is shown a photograph, and they're like, who is this woman you're standing next to? It's E. Jean Carroll in the picture. He looks down and he says, oh, that's my ex-wife, Marla Maples. No, it's not the woman that you were married to and lived with and should know. That face should be familiar. No, that is, in fact, the woman who sued you for sexual predation and assault. It's part comical, it's part terrifying. And this seems like more than just, he's an idiot, because he's always been an idiot. I have never bought the story that Trump was a genius, which we hear quite a bit of. He's so smart. He's obviously a man of superior intelligence. After all, he built his business empire from scratch. Self-made genius. You got to be shitting me. His dad was already a millionaire, right? He was born into massive privilege. He's a silver spoon trust fund baby whose father already had political and business connections, kicking doors open for him left and right and bailing him out every single time he got into trouble. The man bankrupted a casino. How do you even do that? How do you bankrupt a casino? How inept do you have to be? People walk into a casino with an expectation. I am going to potentially lose all my money. When you drive by a casino and every time you do, there's a new wing. Right? Oh, look, they've got a hotel now. Oh, look, they've expanded on the north side and they've got more craps tables and slot machines. Oh, look, here's a performing arts center for concerts. Every time you drive by a casino, there's more casino. You want to know why? Because it is fucking difficult to bankrupt a casino. They are money black holes. Donald Trump, bankrupted a casino. What's that line from Princess Bride? Like, genius. You keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Donald Trump wanted to explore dropping nuclear weapons into hurricanes. There's the whole ivermectin thing and the injection of bleach, declaring he had defeated COVID before it went on to kill over 2 million people. He said that windmills cause cancer in whales. Windmills, they're responsible for whale cancer. He just said that Mexico is sending a bunch of illegal Hannibal Lecters over the border to take everything that you have. Donald Trump told the Daily Caller that you have to have ID to buy breakfast cereal. That the World Trade Center may have been saved on 9/11 if it had contained asbestos. The F-35 stealth fighter, it's not just stealthy on the enemy radar. Trump thinks that the F-35 stealth is just invisible. Like the Wonder Woman plane. Like you could be right up next to it and it's just, where's the plane? I don't see the plane, right? It's invisible. It's a stealth fighter. Yeah, that's Donald Trump. Now, I mentioned the whale thing with windmills a second ago. Back to whales. He was boasting about being able to identify a whale in the cognitive test that he aced. He keeps talking about this cognitive test. These are the type of tests, as I understand it, that are given to people who are suspected of having dementia or going into Alzheimer's. So you're trying to see, how acute is their mind? How good is their recall? Do they know where they are? What planet they live on, kind of thing. And so he just continues to say, oh, yeah, they told me these words and I had to remember them. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. Draw a clock. Copy this picture of a cube. Identify the whale. Oh, yeah. I aced that test. Super genius. Somebody get me a lavender towel. I need a cold lavender towel. I need my namaste right now. You see all this kind of stuff happening, the celebration of it, the celebration of ignorance and stupidity and bigotry and cruelty and craziness and the dismantling of the Constitution. Yeah, sometimes I just want to unplug everything, walk away, and go find my bliss. Talk about self-care. If you don't go and breathe it out and center yourself, you might lose hope altogether. And I don't want that. I want to hold on to my hope. Don't you? All right, what's the clock say? I guess I've gone on long enough. Short break. I'm going to get my lavender towel. I'll be right back to take your calls next. Are you a fan of true stories, interesting history, celebrity trivia, true crime, weird news? Then you're going to love my podcast, True Stories with Seth Andrews. And I'm your host, Seth Andrews, releasing 5-minute podcast vignettes 3 times a week. Search True Stories with Seth Andrews on Spreaker and all major podcast apps, or visit the website, truestoriespodcast.com. 2024 is filling up. A lot of free thought events. I've got a bunch of speaking engagements on the roster, and I'm excited to go and hang out and meet you. Orlando. The American Atheist Convention is coming up Easter weekend, Philadelphia. I'm going to be in Kansas City, Los Angeles, Denver, Sarnia, Ontario. We've got the Secular Student Alliance National Conference. That's the weekend of June 14th through the 16th. FFRF and their national convention in September. All of the info and links us at thethinkingatheist.com/events. And we go to the phones to see what you want to talk about. Richie at 619. Can you hear me?
Hi, how's it going? I'll make this quick. I'm actually going to just ask a question and I'll just hang up and hear your advice. I am an atheist, but I also like to read. And I've recently been interested in reading a lot more religious scriptures. And, I'm just kind of messing around. I'll read a little bit of the Quran here. I'll read a little bit of the Old Testament there, Bhagavad Gita, all that, right? Nothing consistent, but just because I'm interested. And recently I've been letting a few of my friends who know I'm a non-believer, like, hey, I've been interested in these books and everything. And it's kind of weird because some of them who are, believers, they kind of use that as, oh, see, so you might believe in something, and it kind of becomes that kind of game again. And I just get exhausted from that. So I actually want to know what your opinion on that was. Like, what do you tell people being a non-believer, being an atheist, but you still are interested in scriptures, different religions, just for the fact that you're just interested in them? I'd be really interested to know your opinion on that. And thank you for your time.
All right, I'll do my best with that. Thanks for calling. Well, did I lose him? I'm not sure why being interested in something that affects the world means that you might somehow be religious. I mean, I can be interested in Greek mythology, but it doesn't mean that I believe in Zeus or Apollo or Perseus. So I'm not exactly sure. I think they're probably projecting or reading, or maybe they just want him to be leaning into religion. But being interested in something, you can be interested in the Third Reich. You can be a World War II buff, and you are trying to understand, how did Hitler come to power? And tell me about Germany during the mid-20th century, the rise of fascism. What led to that? World War I, World War II. Does that mean that you are interested in becoming a Nazi? No, it doesn't. And beyond all of that, the reason I am engaged is because I think it's important to understand your enemy. Now, I'm not talking about religious people necessarily, but when it comes to fundy faiths and this religiously fueled takeover, hostile takeover of my culture, I feel like I need to know my enemy. I have also been approached by people who say, why can't you just not say anything? Why can't you leave religion alone? Why are you so obsessed with religion? I think this is suspicious, Seth. Your hyper-focus on this stuff makes me hugely suspicious that maybe you've got a guilty conscience. You can't leave God alone. I wonder why that is. I wrote a blog 11 years ago called Why Can't You Leave Religion Alone? I'm just going to read it. I pulled it up. It was in an archive somewhere. It says this: the protests come every day from the religious. Why spend your time disproving God? Why not just let people believe what they want to believe? Why can't you leave religion alone? As one YouTube commenter said recently, no one can explain to me why it's so important to convince theists to abandon their beliefs. The answer is simple. Pages like mine exist because religion exists. Religion permeates our culture, shows up on our doorsteps with literature, scriptures, and threats of eternal damnation, influences our science books, contaminates our political systems, indoctrinates our children, and postulates that its doctrine must be followed lest we be destroyed in body, soul, or both. Non-believers are simply responding to the avalanche of religious messages that bears down on us every day. Religion gets carte blanche to be as vocal as it wants to be, to knock on our doors and accost us in our homes, in our places of work, in our personal and professional lives. Believers are charged with a life mission to preach, teach, disciple, shout it from the mountaintops, and go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Religion is everywhere. Ask yourself, when's the last time an atheist rang your doorbell with the good news of atheism? How often would you find a Richard Dawkins book in the dresser drawer of your hotel room? When was the last atheist temple built in your neighborhood? Have you ever attended an atheist revival service? Has atheism demanded 10% of your household income? How many dedicated atheist television channels come through your satellite dish? How many atheist verses were you instructed to memorize as a child? When's the last time somebody thanked a farmer or even the cook at the dinner table instead of praising God? On a more radical front, what's the name of the last atheist who sawed the head off of an infidel or sentenced a shrouded woman to death for displeasing an oppressive husband or strapped explosives to his belt in order to kill hundreds in a public square or publicly hung a gay person for being gay? Religion is a pounding drum that has gone mostly unanswered for a long, long time. And religion, fundamentalist religion, is not satisfied with merely existing quietly in the homes and hearts of the faithful. Its very nature compels the believer to proselytize, preach, promote, convince, convert, and prevail. If you play on the team of the religious, your game plan is to stay always on offense. Throughout our history, those who raise a simple hand of protest against these advances have been portrayed as the real problem. Religion has attempted to marginalize and defeat legitimate questions and concerns by indignantly portraying any resistors as misguided, immoral, rudderless, angry, miserable, lost, and alone. And when skeptics challenge wildly improbable or impossible stories found in the Bible, the Quran, or some other holy book, the religious say, well, why can't you just leave us alone? Why are you so obsessed with religion? I think the irony is thick. Religion impedes curiosity. It inhibits learning. As the much-maligned Creation Museum proves, it stymies critical thinking. It stretches us to believe and accept the unbelievable and unacceptable, and it poisons the foundational teachings we are using to train up the generations of tomorrow. The work of people like me exists as a response, a counter, to ensure that the cacophony of superstition does not go unchallenged. And if your belief system is so undeniable, so factual, so provable, so real, so true, certainly it can withstand opposing viewpoints and disagreement presented by people like me and people in this community. Certainly it will survive the acid tests. Remember that religion began all of this. It began the argument. It amplifies itself before the entire world, and it's threatening all of humankind with punishment if we don't buy it. As atheists, we are moral people. We are reasonable. We're thoughtful, intelligent, compassionate, happy, fulfilled, well-informed. I hope we are anyway. And as long as religion insists on playing offense, on trying to fix people who are not broken, and selling things that have long been debunked or remain unsubstantiated, we have no choice but to stand up, raise a hand, present the counter evidence, and show them that we are not the problem. That's how I'd answer the question. Sorry for the long response. 267, is it Mark?
Hello, Seth.
Thanks for calling.
That's really hard to follow.
No, you can follow it. Go ahead, brother. What's on your mind?
Listen, I took yoga. I started 12 years ago, and there could be nothing better to do for yourself. As I turned 60 at the time, I'm 72 now, and the lady that started the class, it was a Catholic hospital that had a gym, and they had these big, wide open windows that looked out over a beautiful park. And we started at 6 a.m., and by the time the class ended, the sun would start to rise. So we called it sunrise yoga. And it could get really intense if you move really fast, especially in your hot yoga. But yeah, don't give it up. It's a terrific thing because these trainers, they got me into running in a running club. And I logged like 15,000 miles over a 10, 12-year period. And yoga helped out with that, other than cross-training and running on my own. But I'm glad to hear you're doing that.
Thanks for the encouragement. I think we're all doing our best. You find what works for you. And so far, I think I'm enjoying myself. I appreciate you, Mark. Thanks for calling, man.
Bye, bye.
I was talking about learning what the poses are. There's, let's see. Don't let me repeat myself. There's the chaturanga. Warrior 2 is one of my favorites. Happy baby. Down dog. Plank with tree. Triangle. Stork wobble. The kneel before Zod. The murder victim. Dog has worms. Day drinker. Fire thighs. I know that's one. It's going to be one called fire thighs. There's a lot of poses in yoga. So much to learn. Whole books have been written about yoga poses. I have mastered fire thighs. I'm just saying. I've mastered it already. I've got Al from Chicago, 708. You with me?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about?
Two things. I wonder, how best do you find peace in the midst of your activism? In other words, how do you prevent yourself from becoming an insomniac, worrying about the messy world that we inhabit?
Oh, this is bad. You're talking to an insomniac. Balance is hard for activists. Burnout is common with activists, right? I have a hard time shutting it off. 2 a.m, I wake up, I'm staring at the ceiling, and I'm trying to process the whole world. I'm trying to decide, what do I do tomorrow to try to be a part of a solution in some tiny way? Will it even matter? Do we deserve the killer asteroid? I get philosophical about it. Is this the end of democracy and decency and humanity? And I have to will myself through this heart sickness that I feel all the time. And I have to remind myself that there are still good people in the world, that overall this country, despite the power players at the Supreme Court and in the halls of power in Congress, etc., the hostile takeovers of school boards, seeing all of these sort of point positions, overall demographically, we are becoming a less religious, more secular culture, and I take some hope out of that. But I've struggled with hope. I've struggled with optimism. I think it's something that all of us share. I think we want to feel good, and then we read the headlines and we're like, crap, here we go again. I wish I had a solution. If you find a pill that helps people balance themselves out and reignite the joy when the planet's on fire, you just have your people contact my people, okay?
Will do. And I got just one last thing.
Yeah.
Your ultimate question speech is something that I listen to quite a bit before going to bed. If there's one thing that helps to wash away, clear the mind of the cobwebs, it's hearing some Seth Andrews. So,
well, see, that's the kind of thing that encourages me and makes me feel like it matters and keeps me going, gets me up in the morning. So you're an encourager, Al, and you're much appreciated, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right, hang in there. He is referring to the end of a speech that I gave in San Diego, California. It's got to have been 10 years ago. And at the end of the speech, I read a letter, and the letter was called You're Beautiful. And somebody somewhere took that and they set it to music and released it to YouTube without my knowledge. Someone just sent it to me. Hey, did you know that your speech was taken by somebody and they produced it up with music. And I was like, really? And I was so flattered by it. And I'll play it for you. In fact, let's do this. At the end of the live stream, I'll just find that audio and play it for you because it's designed to encourage. And maybe that's the way we should leave it today. Word of encouragement, a little uplift for you. So I'll grab it and play it for you at the end of our conversation today. But I did that 10, 11 years ago. Somebody still remembers and enjoys and appreciates and benefits from it. Okay, yeah, that gets me up in the morning. Thank you so much for that. 281, is it John?
Yes. Hello, Mr. Andrews.
Seth, please. What's on your mind, brother?
All right, Seth. I was just wanting to call because I've been listening to you for a while, and you've really helped me out in my atheism journey.
Thank you.
I have been an atheist since August of 2023, so it's just recent. But I came across one of your videos called Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. And honestly, the title just made me remember the times that I was a Christian and how idiotic I really sounded, and it just really hit me. I was just screaming, yes, whenever I saw that, and I just wanted to basically just tell you thank you for all that you do. And I've been listening to years worth of your podcasts during these last few months.
Well, you're very kind. It's funny, when I wrote that speech, I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought it was kind of a throwaway. I wrote it and thought, well, this will be fun. And what's happened is a ton of people who were sort of already thinking this sounds idiotic, they were validated. They were like, you know what? I'm not the only one who's concerned. This stuff is just jaw-droppingly stupid. And it helped them to be able to walk away. It blew my mind. It's one of the reasons that I translated the speech into a book that I released a few years later. And so the fact that you enjoyed it makes me so very glad. And I appreciate your kind words. Thanks for that.
Right. And honestly, you also talk about how whenever you were a Christian, you used to be like right-wing Fox News watching, anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ. And honestly, I was the same way as well whenever I was a believer. So you constantly also talk about how atheism can change somebody's perspective. And honestly, that is so true, because ever since I've become an atheist, I've become so much more tolerant. I've become a much better person. I'm free from the chains of religion. I no longer read the Bible with God glasses, as you like to say. And I think that this experience has just been so liberating, honestly, and I'm just a lot happier. And you were talking earlier during this podcast about, well, if we don't believe in God, if we don't believe in religion, then why does it matter to us? Well, it matters to us because there are so many people, millions of people out there in this country who base their lives off of this mythological book, who vote for politicians whose ideas go with this book. And honestly, it's just so discouraging for me, and it's so embarrassing for me to once believe, to say that I used to be a Christian. I used to believe these things. I used to profess these things. And I used to be such a bigot in God's name, aka Christian.
Oh, I totally understand. I've had people say, don't you miss it? And I'm like, no, I really don't. When people ask me, why do you have to talk about it so much? You got a whole channel, and all you do every week is talk about God, religion, as if this is a gotcha, right? And when I'm feeling especially snarky, especially if they come at me with that kind of snark, I'm like, I wonder why people who are trying to defeat cancer talk so much about cancer. Because that's what a high control religion really is. It's just a cancer. It infects people. It tears them down. It costs them so much. Often it robs them of their entire lives, certainly their identities. It puts them at the mercy of all these other factors and people and predators and sociopaths and dogmas and mythologies and fears and conspiracies. I mean, why wouldn't I talk about it? How could someone who was a person with values not speak about it? I think it's a stupid question, personally.
I 100% agree with what you just said. It's a poison that poisons the world. And it was Christopher Hitchens who said, if you want a good person to do terrible things, introduce him to religion.
He was quoting somebody, and it's a popular quote, and I can't remember who said it, so I'm going to have to Google it. But I will do that right now, John. Thanks for the encouragement, though, and I'll keep kicking if you will, okay?
All right, sounds good. I just wanted to thank you for all that you've done, and I hope to talk to you again some other time.
I appreciate you, man. Hang in there. Let's see. Good person, good things. Evil person, evil things, religion. Steven Weinberg. With or without religion, good people can behave well and bad people can do evil. But for good people to do evil, that takes religion. Famous quote. I had to look up the source, but yes, that's been flying around out there for a while. 941, hi, who's this?
Hey, Seth, it's Paleo again.
Paleo Clipper, paleontologist, scientists, critical thinker, heathen. What's on your mind?
So, I guess one of the labels you can add to that is furry. I wanted to chat about the Oklahoma Republican Representative Justin Humphrey, who put forth House Bill 3084, prohibiting students who claim to be imaginary animals or engage in anthropomorphic behavior from participating in school activities.
I don't know much about furries, the furry community.
Okay.
I'm interested in it. But yeah, he was saying that children who really, especially live in the world of make-believe, how often when we were kids did we pretend we were a cheetah or a rabbit or something else? And especially if they dress in costume. Exactly. This representative in the state of Oklahoma has submitted a bill that said if kids do that in school, somebody can call animal control. And I shit you not. Animal control. What were your thoughts when you read the bill?
Yeah. Initially, I started laughing because I've been part of the furry community for almost 19 years now. And all it is it's just another version of cosplay. What you're dressing up as is a character you've made, and you're dressing up as that character. Younger individuals, they put on cat ears, they put on a tail, and they have fun. Seeing the thing about the calling animal control, I would worry if the animal control took it too seriously, that they might actually treat a human being as though they were an animal and, try to put a shock collar on them or something, which hurts, by the way. I've tried it, not recommended. But the other concern is I would consider it a waste of taxpayer money to even give this any sort of credit. What is the point here other than being a thinly veiled attempt at saying, oh, furry equals transgender or something?
What's interesting is that Representative Humphreys, and this bill is not going to see the light of day. He submitted it, but I'm sure they're going to kick it out. They're not going to vote on it. Certainly not going to pass. Not this one. But this is the same guy who actually he proposed a bill to create a Bigfoot hunting season in the state of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. Did you read the Dusty Deavers in the state of Oklahoma? Oklahoma's Dusty Deavers has just submitted a bill that would make downloading or watching porn a crime.
Oh, they tried to do that in the city I live in right now.
For far too long, he says, civil society has conflated liberty for license. These bills are aimed at strengthening the God-instituted bedrock of society, that is, the family. A strong, prosperous, and flourishing society depends on strong families, and for this reason, he wishes to make pornography unlawful. A nanny state. By the way, these are the same people that are always talking about government overreach. I got to get government out of our lives. And then out of the other side of their mouth, they want to put together an entire body of government that does nothing but scan your shit to make sure you're not downloading porn. And I want somebody to check Dusty Deavers' browser history. Because anybody this obsessed with porn, trust me, he's got a closet full of skeletons. I guarantee it. I am convinced of it. Paleo, can I come back to the shock collar? You can't throw that out and expect me not to go back to it.
Yes, I'm fine. My mother got a shock collar for her dog, trying to get the dog to stop barking at the neighbors. They rectified the situation a totally different way, but in an attempt to prove to her that shock collars should not be used on dogs, I put it on my own wrist and had her shock me.
Well, describe the sensation if you can.
So have you ever tested a battery by sticking your tongue on it?
Yes.
Okay, imagine that, but like 3 to 4 times worse and going up your arm.
I figured it was something like brushing against the electric fence on a farm or something, one of those higher end fences. It would really, really grab you.
I've done that. I was attempting to pet a horse. I've done it. Not quite as bad as that.
But still nothing you would inflict upon an animal.
No, not at all.
Did you make your point? Did she stop using the collar?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your dog's name?
Thankfully. The dog's name was Buffy. She passed away about 5 years ago.
Well, I'm sorry you lost Buffy, but I'm sure Buffy was grateful that you intervened. Paleo, it's always good to talk to you. Hang in there.
I'm trying.
All right. See you. Somebody in the chat made a great point. Dusty Devers is a great porn name. Dusty Devers. That's a great porn name. I learned this a few years ago, and I did not know it. But when you play that game where you find your porn name, and it's something like, what's the name of your first pet and the first street you lived on? And, it's like, I don't know, Trixie Pine or something like that. These sound like a lot of fun. The problem is that they are also ways for scammers to get the security questions for your passwords. Whenever you've got a bank account, you log in with a password, but you also have to go through a tree of a couple of security questions. So often those questions are, what was the first street you lived on? What was the name of your first pet? What was your mother's maiden name? What's your favorite color? What was your high school mascot? What city were you born in? Those types of things. It's really clever. I mean, it's sort of insidious. But a lot of people will see those memes. What was your porn name? First street, pet's name, mother's maiden name, hospital you were born in, whatever. Those are answers to security questions that might give very untoward people access to your bank, your investments, your home or business computers. I don't know. I just learned that a few years ago. I'm just saying. Play the game, but I think use questions that would not be security questions. What questions would you ask to find a porn name? Anyway, Dusty Devers. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's up there with, what was Mark Wahlberg's name in Boogie Nights? Dirk Diggler. Yeah, Dusty Devers is up there with Dirk Diggler as a porn name. More calls next, and I'm going to play that letter of encouragement as the last portion of the show. We continue next. Your support helps me do what I do. Thank you so much for being a supporter on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Seth Andrews with my thanks. Robert, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How you doing?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Well, this is my first time ever calling in to an atheist show or ever really expressing myself as an atheist to an atheist because I live in Kentucky. And it just seems the neighborhood and area I live in, pretty much everybody is conservative Christian. And they're all good people and easy to get along with. But whenever the concept or conversation evolves into ideas and stuff like that, I'm sort of just left being silenced because I know my ideas and my views differ so greatly from them. And I've experienced in the past when talking to my family and stuff like that and expressing that I do not believe what you believe, it seems to cause some sort of turmoil or pain within the family. Like my father, he's been sober for 29 years. And my parents got divorced, and he sort of had to develop this sort of him against the world mentality and attitude towards everything. AA played a huge part in his life and the way he viewed and carried himself going forward. And me now as an adult trying to deal with my own complex PTSD from years of abuse at his hands and in the military as well. I tried to repair and build this bond relationship with him because I only got so many years left. But all he really cares about is instilling the same ideas and thoughts and everything that he believes kept him alive on me. And he can't look me in the eyes. And it's really disheartening. And it really breaks my heart to see this man who is the staple and cornerstone of like manliness and masculinity growing up just sort of be relegated to silence when his ideas and views are questioned. It just breaks my heart because I crave a relationship with my father almost more than anything. And it's probably cost me way more than it's ever cost him. I just wish to find a way in order to say, Dad, I don't believe what you believe, but I still love you. And to still have a loving, caring bond with this man.
I don't think it's a masculinity thing. I think it's an insecurity thing. And it's probably a legitimate heartbreak if he truly believes in heaven and hell and God and the devil. And they invested a lot in you to make sure that you would stay on the straight and narrow, train up a child and all that.
I did 8 years in the Army, 2 tours in Iraq. I've climbed towers in North Dakota, South Dakota. I've done all sorts of amazing stuff. And last week, I was on a retreat here in Kentucky with a bunch of other veterans, and they were all giving me the validation that I've craved for so long from a man. And I sent a text message to my father saying, Dad, you should be really proud. You raised a really good son. And he called me, and he said, what is all this bullshit you're talking about? I should be proud. And then I started just, lean into it a little bit and explain it, and he just hung up on me. And it was like the most invalidating experience I've had. It's so mind-blowing to me that, and I look at how he is within the church, because he spent a lot of years mentoring a lot of men, saving them from addiction and recovery, and instilling these godly ideas and stuff in them. I feel like, in a way, he views himself as a god, whereas he's the one who has all the knowledge, and the ones who want to come to him to get it, he accepts. But the ones who give him any sort of problem, the ones who have any sort of questions, he deems them unworthy, and he can't work with them. So in a sense, I can see the way his biblical view of the world and his biblical community has sort of turned him into some sort of demigod within the addiction and alcohol community. And me as a veteran, I've had my problems with addiction and alcohol as well. So naturally, I would want my father to be a part of that because he knows so much.
We sometimes tell ourselves, somewhere out there is a certain sequence of words that will make the point. I can show them. I can convince them, right? I can break through. If I just communicate it in a certain way, I got to figure out what that way is. But the sad truth is, it's usually not that simple. Just know that it's not your fault. Again, when I play the letter at the end of this show, I want you to just write your name at the top of the letter, because the message will be for you and anybody like you who has gone through this with a judgmental culture who doesn't fully accept them. I want you to listen, soak it in, and hopefully walk away encouraged, okay?
I really appreciate that, Seth.
Give yourself credit for pursuing an authentic life, and hang in there, and just know that family comes in many forms, and we qualify, okay?
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, let me find. Is there anybody in the chat who knows where that audio is? Seth Andrews, you're beautiful. Oh, there it is. There it is. The username is Fearless Goddess 2, the number 2. It runs 8 minutes. My voice she grabbed from the speech, and then she produced it with a soundtrack. I'm just going to play it the way she produced it. And after this show is over, sometime today, make a protected space for you. I don't think it's going to happen automatically for you. I think it's a commitment. Make a safe, protected box, mentally, emotionally, maybe physically. Get away. Turn down the volume of the world, knowing we can't fix everything. We can't fix most of it, but also we can make a difference, and there is still So much goodness in the world, even if we don't see it on our social media feeds from minute to minute. There are good people who love and honor and protect and respect and advocate and genuinely want to build the best future possible. They exist, and I think we are among them. We should give thanks, be grateful, and reward yourself. Pat yourself on the back for committing to self-care. You're no good to anybody else unless you are good to yourself. Breathe in, breathe out, stretch it out from your fingers to your toes. Be mindful, be grateful. And when you're done doing that, maybe even grab yourself a cool towel that is scented with lavender. You certainly deserve it. And with all my heart today, namaste.
You learn a lot about people when you declare that you're not going to live your life their way. And many in this room know the consequences of doing something so shocking and controversial as to be an individual, a singular voice, an often inquisitive voice with its own tenor, its own style, its own song, and its own message. You and I live in a world where conformity is comfort, and we all know how comfortable people can become. So many voices out there today are just an echo of previous voices, a hand-me-down from a previous generation, and the generation before, and the generation before. Breaking that cycle to them is unthinkable. And why would they ever consider it, as the cloak they've inherited feels so safe and warm? Everyone around them looks like them, walks like them, talks like them. Everyone except for you. They nod in agreement. You raise an eyebrow of doubt. They just know the answer. You just know the answer raises a whole lot more questions. They take security in staying on the path. You want to go carve a path of your own. But this is not what was expected of you, or many of you. They laid out the guidelines for a proper person to live, and they were going to make sure that you turned out right no matter what. Maybe this was a parent or some sort of a guardian, a pastor, a mentor. So what happened to you? At this very moment, mothers and fathers carry embarrassment and shame that they failed as a parent because you left the straight and narrow. You were co-opted and corrupted because you rewrote the playbook in a language they consider to be foreign, shameful, confusing, and ugly. You had two choices in your life. You could keep the peace and you could line up with the others, or you could walk at your own pace, in your own direction, for your own reasons, and accept the consequences and rewards that come with being your own person. And the fallout for many of you has been significant. These days, when they look at you, they only see what they think you should have been, what you might have been, what you could have been if only you had lived your life their way. They speak the words of love, but just barely. And by lacing it with distance and disdain, they cheapen the word. In fact, when they look at you and they say, I love you, you get that bitter taste in your mouth like you've just been schmoozed by a politician whose only real desire is to get you to change your vote. Yeah, they love you, but the full package, the 100% love, the unfiltered love, well, that's going to be kept on reserve until you straighten up, until you do it their way, until you start acting normal. Well, for just a second, my friends, let's look at normal, shall we? Normal is a husband and wife married per the Bible, in a church and under God, condemning non-heterosexuals for ignoring and even desecrating the lawful and ordained marital union that they now enjoy after 2 divorces. It's a mother telling her daughter that sex is dirty, that her body is dirty and shameful, that sexual desire is lust, it's a sin, and that she is cursed by the fall of Eve in the garden, a byproduct of sin designed to gain her worth from a future husband who, according to God in the book of Genesis, will rule over her. It's a Sunday school teacher frightening a 6-year-old with stories of the devil and a fiery hell. It's refusing to purchase a new car without first test driving 15 vehicles from 6 different car lots and checking the vehicle history and the payment book and the insurance and the safety record and Carfax and everything else, but accepting the Bible as absolute fact without even knowing who wrote the book of Genesis. It's a church communion ritual where men, women, and children get together to ritualistically eat flesh and drink blood. How was this normal? It was normal. And now you look at it through the looking glass the other way and you go, oh my God, how screwed up is that? It's thanking God for food grown and prepared by human hands. It's giving God the glory for providing the new home that came with a 30-year mortgage. It's praying for safety after you buckle your seatbelt, lock your doors, and load your handgun. It's Sunday school songs, it's a Bible on the nightstand, it's a check on the offering plate, an evangelist on the TV, a Jesus fish on your car, and a t-shirt that says 7 days without Jesus makes 1 week. I believe this is a prison designed to look like a mansion, and you're not going to live like that. You've read the books and you've seen the history and learned the science and realized the world is much grander than most people ever imagine. You finally found your own voice and you're going to speak in it. You've had the epiphany that you don't owe it to the rest of the world to keep them happy. You owe it to you and your loved ones to create happiness. And even though wherever and whenever you can, you say the words and you take the actions that build bridges and soften the sharp edges and demonstrate a love for people and a desire for a better world, you are not a sheep to be led, an echo to be repeated, a cautionary tale, a bad example, a freak, a pervert, shameful, broken, ugly. You are not ugly. You're beautiful. You figured out what so many billions, literally billions of other people have missed. That life's too precious to spend in somebody else's shadow. That by judging everyone and everything that's different, you only indict your own shallow heart. And you cheat yourself out of the amazing depth, breadth, color, culture, and humanity that's so much more wonderful than the tiny rooms people lock themselves into and the narrow tunnels they walk. That believing in things without evidence, faith is not a virtue. Faith is not a virtue. It's something to be pitied. That sexuality isn't shameful. It is something to be celebrated. That the condemnation of what is wrong, even when it is called sacred, is the obligation of any and every moral creature. That your hopes, dreams, desires, loves, pursuits, and passions belong to you and you alone. That you've stepped out of the crowd to stand forward, to stand out, and to stand your ground. To know that even though you occupy a tiny speck, inside a tiny speck, inside this vast universe, and even though you don't believe your father is a divine king who can do magic, and that your name is written in the heavens and you'll one day die and inherit a mansion, you've discovered that your life is wonderful and amazing and so much more satisfying. It's a life where every day brings a new opportunity to ask the ultimate question. Now, is that kind of life easy? Is it popular? Probably not. But be encouraged, my friends, because inside this 13.7 billion-year-old universe, there has never, ever been anyone exactly like you, and there never will be again. And you are simply living a unique life that reflects that fact. And while others laugh at you because you are different, you can laugh at them because they are all the same.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.